Hi everyone, it's Jessica. I am back today with a Makers with Heart collaboration video. For the month of December, we have each decided to take on one of the new colors from the 2021-2022 core catalog, and we are going to showcase a project using that new color, and we are also going to use the same stamp set. Now, I picked the color Papaya, which is, like I said, one of the new ones. I really love this color. It's just this pretty orangish sort of color. I think the name Papaya is aptly named, and then there's the lighter side of the cardstock. So you can see it's got a much darker, richer shade on one side and a lighter shade on the other. And I'm going to be working on 2 cards today. Now, like I said, we are each using the same stamp set, and so we decided to use the Operation Smile stamp set, which is called Big Smile. Now, this is an $18.95 stamp set, and you can always find it on the back of your catalog. But of that $18.95, $7 of the proceeds goes towards supporting Operation Smile, and so that's a really wonderful thing. Now, since I am using this new color, it's not in the Love of Color book yet. It's too new. So I turned to my Love of Color and I thought, well, what is similar here? And I thought that the color Smoothie was pretty close in tone to Papaya, even though it's a little bit pinker. And so if you look at the Love of Color, it will give you a bunch of different combination options of what will work well with that shade. And so I decided to use Nectarine and Canary because that is one of the suggestions for Smoothie. And then I am also working out of a Make It From Your Heart Volume 5 book in pattern 21 for this first card, and really it just takes a couple of pieces of cardstock and that is about it. I will leave those dimensions down below. Now, I have cut out of my Canary cardstock one of those stitched brackets. Those are still available on my website, although they are pretty low in stock, so if you love those, make sure that you grab those before they're gone. And then just to get started, I am taking my ink and swiping it across the edges of those pieces of cardstock. Now, I wanted to add a little something else to that Papaya, and so I am just grabbing a sanding block and I am running it over the surface of my cardstock. White, close to my heart's cardstock has a white core, and this is a really great way to add some distressing and texture as well as reveal that white core. So I will just run it over there, like I said, until I kind of like the way that it looks and clean up my dusty mess. And there, I think that that is a lot of fun. Okay, before I begin assembling the card pieces, I am going to grab card front stencil pack number 3, and this is the one that has the little plus signs on it. I will turn them sideways and use my foam blending tool and Canary ink to add that Canary color to this card, because remember, if we go back to the Love of Color, those were the 3 colors that paired well with Smoothie, and we're using that as our inspiration for Papaya, and I really love how fun that is. Now that I still have a little bit of yellow left on my foam tool, I am just hitting the edge of that white daisy cardstock to add some more edge distressing, since I did that with the other pieces as well. Okay, the assembly on this is so simple, you guys. I am just going to take the biggest piece and put it on the bottom, and then the next biggest piece and put that in the middle. And then the pattern has a 1/2 inch piece as a third strip going across the card. And since shimmer trim is very nearly a 1/2 inch, I think it's more like 3/8 of an inch, I am just going to use shimmer trim as my third and final layer. And so that is the Papaya shimmer trim. I love this. It is so pretty. Oh my goodness, the sparkles in that Papaya color are just gorgeous. So now I am going to add just one more little bit of texture. This is something that I have in my stash. I bought it a long time ago, 7 years now, when I was pregnant with my daughter and making some birth announcements. I don't even know where I got this. Honestly, I think I actually was in Toronto at a craft expo when I picked this up. So this is just something random for my stash, but it does match that Papaya color, and it's just some twine. So I'm going to wrap that twice around my card front. Okay, to prepare that Canary stitched bracket, we are going to rub the anti-static pouch over it. I'm so proud of myself for remembering to do it first this time, because lately I've been forgetting that step. So now I'm going to do a little bit of heat embossing with the stamp that says, oh, what does it say? I keep forgetting. Oh, you make my heart smile. And I'm using my Versamark ink and stamping it right over the center here. Then I'm going to grab it with my tweezers and just pour some of that white embossing powder over the top of it. I will heat set this off camera, but I really love that the way this turned out. I forget sometimes to use embossing and that, we should be stamping in something other than black ink on white cardstock. I think it's so pretty to have the white on top of that yellow color. Okay, now I am putting some foam tape behind it, and I am going to pop this up here so that it's overlapping those top 2 layers just a little bit, and then centered, of course, from side to side. I will use a micro dot glue dot to put that bow, which I tied in that same twine, right there over to the side. And this card is done. All I have to do is put it onto my card base. Perfect. All right, now for the second project I am going to do, I'm going to show you how to stamp something and then color it in using the back side of the stamp set. Now I've gone ahead and prepared my pieces. This is the Stitch Square thin cut. And I just used that third one, that middle smallest one. And when you do that, you get 2 pieces there. And then I'm also using the Doodled Florals stamp set, which is still available on my website. So to get this card ready, I have a piece of white daisy cardstock that is cut down to 4 inches by 5 1/4 because I am going to mat it on a piece of Papaya cardstock. Now I'm using the lines on my Versamark, on my Versamat, and I am going to mark off 1 inch from the left side. Then I am using my full stick sticky notes just to, put those on straight with that Versamat and my T-square ruler and basically mask off the majority of this card so that only that 1 inch strip over to the left is going to be exposed. Then what I'm going to do is, you can see here, this is kind of a good thing I've got sticky notes everywhere because the last time I made this, I accidentally got some ink from my block on the card front. So this time I got smarter and kept my sticky notes full so that they were covering up the rest of my card here. All right, now what I'm going to do is use that Doodled Floral stamp set, and I am going to stamp a bunch of flowers coming out onto that 1 inch strip. So I like to do this trick whenever I am traveling with my crafting supplies and I don't want to, pack up all of the things like the markers and the colored pencils and, all the things that we tend to use for coloring in our stamped images. So this works really well if you have a stamped image that is relatively symmetrical. It doesn't have to be perfectly symmetrical. In fact, I think some of the charm of this way of coloring is when it doesn't perfectly match. But if it's relatively symmetrical, and then also if your stamp is an outline stamp. So you can see here when I stamp this largest flower from the set, it's just the outline of the flower and the petals. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, well, hold on. First, I need to make myself a mask. So I'm getting a little ahead of myself. But I'm going to pull out one of those full stick sticky notes, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp that flower again, and I'm going to create a mask for when I'm ready to do different flowers and also my leaves on this little floral cluster. So to create the mask, like I said, I got it on a sticky note, and I'm just going to cut very carefully around the edge. I don't want to cut into the line of my stamped image, and I also don't want to leave really any border outside of that line. So just take your time and go slowly all the way around. It doesn't take that long, but definitely a little bit longer than just regular fussy cutting because you do want to be careful. But just cut out that image as closely to the line as possible as you can. And then for these masks, I actually reuse them quite a few times. You can see over to the left there that I just have saved some of the ones I've made in the past for the stamp set, and I stick them to that paper, that insert that comes in the stamp envelope, and then I reuse them. So you can use them a bunch of times before the stickiness on your sticky note is kind of gone and they don't work very well anymore. So even though they start to look a little crazy with the other colors stamped over top of them, they're still perfectly usable. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is add that color in peach. So I stamped the flower itself in Papaya, which is darker than peach, but peach plays very nicely with Papaya. I think they are similar in tone and they just look really pretty together. So I'm going to take that flower and I'm going to flip it over. So now the back side of my stamp set is smooth. It's all a solid stamp. Now, because this is not a perfectly symmetrical flower, I do have to kind of take some time to spin it around and find, where do the petals best line up so that when I go over it, I'm going to cover it in as best as possible. I'm going to pick it up with my stamp block. And Close to My Heart stamps are very sticky, and so even though you have your stamp on backwards on the block, it does still definitely cling to your stamping block. So I'm going to ink that up in that peach, and then just like I said, line up my petals as best I can and go right over it, and then I will have colored in that flower. Isn't that so fun? I really love this technique, and like I said, it doesn't have to line up perfectly. In fact, I think some of the charm of it is when you kind of have a little bit of a shadow coming out around your stamped image, the outline part, and it looks so pretty and soft, and it's a good way to, like I said, travel a little bit lighter. I don't know about you guys, but generally when I travel with my crafting stuff, I can fill the entire back of my car. It's a little crazy. So this is a good way to not pack quite so much stuff, right? All right, so that was 2 different colors. So I had papaya and peach. Now I'm going to come in with green apple for my leaves. Now this is why I have that sticky note reminder to myself, because I practiced this card twice before making this video, and both times I forgot this. So if you are using the same color ink to do both the outline version and then the colored in version, then you really need to remember to do that 2nd generation stamping, because if you don't use 2nd generation stamping, then when you do the fill, the solid part, you're not going to be able to see the outline. So I've got that note to myself to hopefully not forget this time around. So first I'm going to come in with my leaf that's got the outline, and I'm going to just stamp this around my flower here. Okay. And I did remember to do 2nd generation. I was so happy. I was really nervous I was going to screw it up. Okay, I'm going to work on just the one flower right now, since I need to move my mask over before I can do the other one. Flip that leaf over just like I did the flower, and pull in a scrap piece of paper to remind myself that you need to stamp off. So 2nd generation, if you're not familiar, all it means is before you stamp your image down on your project, you just stamp it off on a scratch piece of paper, because you still have some color left on your stamp, but it's just not as dark or as rich because you've already stamped it once. So that 2nd time you stamp is called 2nd generation, and sometimes you can even do 3rd or 4th generation, depending on how much color you still have left on your stamp. All right, now for this other flower, while I've got that mask in place, I am just going to stamp it in Nectarine. Again, flip that stamp over, and then this time I'm going to fill in the flower with Canary. So I don't need to worry about 2nd generation again, sort of like how I had papaya and peach, because they're 2 different colors, and one is lighter and one is darker. So really it just kind of matters that 2nd generation, like I said, if you are doing the same color for both the outline and the fill. Okay, and again, here come the leaves. I was like, all right, I did it right on the first flower. Please don't screw up the second one. Please don't screw up the second one. See, I'm like pointing to myself. I'm like, look at the note, Jessica, don't forget. And I didn't, so there we go. But this is just a really fun way, like I said, to color some things in, and it just looks really whimsical and soft and pretty. I don't know, I really like stamping this way. All right, now you might notice that I have a little bit of a gap there between the 2 flowers at the top and the one at the bottom, and that is because I am going to pop one up on my card front when I am done, so that space will get covered. All right, I managed to survive without any major mishaps. See, this flower is going to go right there, so it'll cover that space. Okay, I'm going to turn it back over and go back to my lines so that I can make sure everything is getting on straight. I will reuse that full stick sticky note because it will help to hold my card front in place. And then I'm going to run some of that Papaya Shimmer trim, and because I want to cover up that very edge of where my flowers are, I'm just kind of coming over a little bit over them, and I'm going to line up the lines at the top and the bottom so that I know it's on straight, and voila, there we go. I always leave a little tail on my shimmer trim so that I can get it started again the next time, so don't cut it right off. All right, and then we'll trim that excess off, and that part is done. Awesome. Okay, and again, while I've got my Versamat flipped over, I'm going to use those lines and that full stick sticky note to put this square down. Now, like I said, those stitch squares and the rectangles are like this too. When you run them through your die cutting machine, you actually get 2 pieces out of the one die cut, the one thin cut. So you get the outer frame as well as the inner square in this case. And the inner piece also has that stitch detail on it, which is really pretty. But for this one, I just used the frame. So now I have, you know, an extra piece that I can use on another project. All right, and I'm going to put that down there with some of my Tombow liquid glue. Put a block in that to let that set for a second. And now I'm going to stamp my sentiment in some black ink. And this one I picked Peace Begins with a Smile. And the other one that we stamped on the first card would have also fit in the square, but I wanted to do something different for this one. And then I'm just going to make sure I don't have any straight ink on my block because, again, I would hate to mess it up at this point. And excuse my head, but I wanted to make sure I got it on straight. Oh, that would have been awful if it were crooked, especially in that square. And there it is. And now I need to put that other flower on, which has some foam tape on the back. And I'm also going to edge distress this card with a little bit of ink. So I didn't even re-ink my foam tool. I still had it from sitting out from that last card. And I'm just kind of going around with that extra ink that was on there and adding some of the edge distressing, popping this up on some foam tape. And I want that one petal to go over the bottom corner of that square. And then all of that will get placed onto the papaya mat, which is cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. All right, guys, that is it. That is my take on Papaya with the Operation Smile stamp set, which, like I said, is such a wonderful stamp set because it does help a good cause. And so I will leave links to all of that down below. Thank you for watching. I've been having so much fun watching all the other makers with heart in their challenge and their takes on their colors as well. Tomorrow we have Lori, who is working with Mocha, and Kim is the next day, who is doing shortbread. All of their links are down below, so make sure to check out their creations. All right, guys, happy crafting.